A packed federal courtroom in New York City holds its breath. Cassie Ventura, the woman who shook the music world with explosive allegations against Sean Diddy Combs, is back on the stand. Today marked a pivotal moment in the trial. Cassie, Diddy's former girlfriend of over a decade, was grilled under oath by the defense. Her explosive testimony last week painted Diddy as a violent, manipulative figure. But now, his legal team is fighting back. Defense attorney Anna Estevao came in swinging, accusing Cassie of jealousy, control issues, and voluntary participation in the very events she called abuse. One of the most disturbing aspects of Cassie's testimony involved what she called freak-offs, alleged sex parties organized by Diddy with escorts, cameras, and control. The defense challenged her claims, suggesting she could have walked away. But Cassie didn't flinch. She said fear, blackmail, and isolation kept her locked in a toxic world behind Diddy's empire. In chilling detail, Cassie reaffirmed claims that Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car after learning the two had a relationship. The courtroom fell silent. This wasn't just about a breakup, it was about power, paranoia, and control. Diddy faces multiple federal charges, including sex trafficking, racketeering, and coercion. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. The trial is far from over, expected to last another 6 weeks, but today the battle lines are clear. Cassie versus Diddy. Truth versus power. This is more than a courtroom drama, it's a moment of reckoning in the music industry, and the world is watching.
It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
Day 2 of Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial started with a tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. All eyes were on the courtroom door as a familiar figure stepped in, Cassie Ventura, the woman at the center of a storm that's been brewing for years. This wasn't just any witness. This was the woman who had once stood beside Diddy as his partner, his muse, and now, possibly his greatest threat.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
Cassie walked in with a calm determination. She was flanked by her legal team, her face a mix of focus and quiet strength. Diddy, sitting just feet away, didn't flinch, but the atmosphere shifted the moment she took the stand. Everyone in that room could feel it. Something big was about to go down. The judge gave the go-ahead, and Cassie's attorney stepped up to guide her through the testimony. Her voice was soft at first, trembling slightly as she began to unpack the years she spent under Diddy's shadow. But with every word, her voice grew stronger. Cassie testified that during their relationship, Diddy wasn't just controlling, he was explosive, manipulative, and dangerous. She spoke about how he isolated her from friends and family, how he used his power to manipulate every aspect of her life. She said Diddy controlled where she went, who she saw, and what she said. And when she pushed back, he retaliated, not with arguments, but with violence. As she told her story, the courtroom sat in stunned silence.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, "I know, you don't want to do it." And she said, "Oh no, well, it's not that." But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Cassie described moments of terror, of being trapped in hotel rooms, of enduring nights that no woman should ever have to face. She detailed episodes where Diddy's rage boiled over into physical abuse, slaps, shoves, and threats that left her emotionally broken. She described feeling like she was always walking on eggshells, fearing the next outburst. Diddy, for his part, maintained a stone-cold stare. No expression, no movement, just silence. But even without words, his presence loomed large. Cassie, however, didn't shrink. She kept going. Her testimony stretched over hours, each minute revealing more of a dark reality the public had only guessed at. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears. She talked about how Diddy once smashed a glass in front of her during a heated argument, sending shards across the room. She said he screamed that no one else would want her, that he made her, and he could destroy her just the same. Her voice cracked as she described the emotional blackmail, the manipulation that kept her locked in a toxic cycle for nearly a decade. The court heard how Diddy allegedly paid people to keep quiet. Hotel staff, security, even friends. Anyone who might have seen something or heard something, he allegedly paid off or threatened. Cassie claimed that fear was his weapon, and for a long time it worked. She said what finally pushed her to leave was the night she feared for her life. She didn't go into graphic detail, but the implication was clear. Something happened that night that changed everything.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, "I enjoyed being with Sean Combs." And she says, "I did it because it made him happy."
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in a relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
Cassie packed her bags and walked out, and from that point on she said she lived in fear of what Diddy might do next. Her legal team presented photos, text messages, and voice memos, pieces of a puzzle painting a chilling portrait of control and abuse. One message, allegedly from Diddy, read, "You think you can leave me and just live your life? You're mine. Don't forget that." The courtroom gasped. As the prosecution presented more evidence, it became harder to dismiss Cassie's claims. This wasn't just a breakup gone wrong. This was a story of systemic abuse, of a man accused of using his fame and fortune to manipulate, intimidate, and control the women in his life. At one point, Cassie's attorney asked her what she hoped would come out of the trial. Her answer was simple: "Cassie, VO, I want the truth to come out. I want people to see who he really is."
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's